Hello and welcome everyone for another episode here at CIO Talk with Riaz. This is Riaz Yusuf. I'm a Chief Information Officer and your host. Today I'm thrilled to have Lakshman Dhasarathan, who is a CEO at QBrainX. Lakshman and I go back several years ago when we both worked together at a large consulting company. Welcome, Lakshman, to the show. Happy
Thanks,
to have you
Riaz.
here. Could you briefly introduce yourself for the benefit of my audience?
Sure. Thanks, Riaz, for the opportunity. It's great speaking with the friend and a colleague coming back like 20 years at least, probably 17 years. It's a long time. It definitely brings back a lot of good memories. That's when I was entering the career. So that was a great time. I want to start my introduction from that point because Riaz has seen me when I started my career. So I was coming from a backdrop of computer science bachelor's and master's from Tamil Nadu, and I entered the company consulting IT services side of the industry. Pretty much learned the good side of IT back then. It was not a AI phase or anything. It was all self-learning. It was all the mentor-based learning. It was all you fail and learn. So the learning phase was completely different from what the current generation is going through. So I did a lot of good work with the data solutions back then, did a lot of data engineering in the early days of my career, spent most of my time working with healthcare customers, predominantly in my 15 years of working for the IT services organization. I have addressed a lot of customers with their large data problems as the data solution architect and the enterprise data integration expert, and also acquired the data governance interest back then because the industry has been accumulating a lot of data, processing a lot of data, analyzing it, using it, and consuming for various good reasons. So there needs to be a lot of good governance on the data part. I'm trying to mention this part because there's a good connection to what I'm going to talk in the next few minutes. So governance is important wherever we go, however we live. So I played a great part in that role on building the data governance solutions. So at one fine day, when that saturation was hitting on the IT services, working as an employee for the bigger IT services organizations, the thought came in from my very good friend of mine from high school. We went together to a high school in South India. So he also started his career similar to mine, and then spent a lot of good time in the program management, account management, dealing with a lot of greater deal of customer problems and everything. Worked with Fortune 10 companies. So he was hitting the same point, and I was hitting the same point. We have been doing the same thing for at least 15 years. The time has to come together for those two strange friends to talk. Okay, can we do something different, right? So we started this journey. We named this company as QBrainX. I was very adamant about having the keyword brain in the name of the company. I didn't care about the rest of the part, but in simple words, when the computer was invented, it is all about can computer do what the human was doing, and our intellect part is always driven by our brain. So pretty much this is also getting connected to what the industry is seeing now. AI is nothing but the reflection of our brain. And the industry is going through how they can set up the human brain in a robot or a bot or a software bot, whatever they call it, and then how they can make it superlative. So that's how the AI world is currently working. This one I was able to connect with how we have named this company. So Q being the quantum computing kind of Q, and then X for X factor. So our company is named as QBrainX. We had quite a journey. This is our fifth year in the industry. So we are set up in US as a headquarters. We run globally. We have offices in India. We have offices in UAE. We run at the headcount of 300 plus, and we made close to 10 million last year. And then we run with at least 45 different customers so far. Plus, we address their complex data problems. We go against their critical transformation needs. Most of our customers rely on us for starting the transformation journey because the businesses in US or any mature business in any part of the region in this world has spent their like 30 years or 50 years of their information architecture journey. Some businesses don't want to change it. Some businesses want to change it, but they're really reluctant towards taking that very first step. Credit goes to all the cloud partners like AWS, GCPs, Azures, and a lot of small players too. They've democratized this place. They gave a lot of good confidence towards modernizing, which is also driven by a huge factor, which is cost. So transforming is a tough journey, and organizations don't want to take a risk of spending time and also spending money. We are now living in a different economy compared to what we have seen in the 80s and 90s. So every single penny is important for every single business. Nobody knows when another COVID is or when another big disaster is. Everyone wants to save. Businesses want to keep their books strong. So a transformation journey driven by a greater cost, an optimized cost. So they want to do it in a right way, but for a better cost. So this is where we come in. Even though we call it as cloud, we all need to understand cloud comes for a high cost too. It doesn't mean that we are scraping all data centers and then we are going for a simple $10,000 deal or anything. It does cost the same thing. At the end, 20 years or 25 years from now, if they do a balance sheet, they would have spent the same money. So we are all about looking this, forecasting this, doing the right thing for the transformation journey. So we work predominantly with our customers on the ERP, such as the workflow management. We work with them for their security operations or the HR operations or operational asset management. These are all done through a product called ServiceNow, which is pretty popular in the market. That's something that everyone uses, every business uses. We are a premier partner with ServiceNow, grew up with ServiceNow for last 4 years. And then we're also partnered with Salesforce, SAP, and then a lot of good data solutions using Snowflake, Databricks, Azure, and many other partners in the tech industry. So we are now engaging with Fortune 100 customers in our fifth year. So starting this year pretty strong. So yeah, thanks for the time for the opportunity, Riaz, to introduce my company.
Lakshman, what a great startup journey and a story that you are sharing and experiencing, which is great. So I'd like to ask a question. The way I think of this question is it's more relevant. It's relevant for startup companies as well as for leaders, growing leaders who are trying to establish themselves in their environment, trying to prove themselves so they can have that continuous growth in their careers. So when you're a startup company, you have to prove yourself to get the customers and to get to where you are today, right? So the same thing for a growing leader. He or she has to prove themselves in order to continue their growth in their career path as managers, directors, and so on. So how did you approach that, having to prove yourself, and what are some of the advices that you have for both startup companies as well as for growing leaders?
Yeah, so I also mentor some of the friends and the aspirants who want to start their journey from a startup standpoint. I used to tell them the keyword sits right in the same word that we're talking about, startup, right? So you have to restart. Everyone need to understand you have spent 20 years of time, 25 years of time on what you've done so far, what you've learned so far. You have done the job really great and right. Now you are motivated enough to start your own enterprise, start your or growing your own idea, give a picture to the idea, take your idea to the market and everything. But I always tell them, be ready to start again. You are not starting from 25th year or 20th year. You are starting from year one again. And year one of most of our career has been so energetic. Every one of the startup founders has to understand how they started in their first year. And what we give now compared to what we gave back then is the energy, right? That took us for the last 20 years or 25 years. That's how I put myself in the spot. When I started this, like in the 17th, I would say 16th year of my career, that's a complete restart. Even though it was a services business, I was used up for all the services world. I know how this business work. I know what the customer would need, but I'm going to start again with the brand that nobody knew. People would love to work with Accentures and Deloitte. Nobody would like to work with QBrainX. I need to take that assumption first. So how I can make it worth for a customer to listen me, and it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a first year. You need to put forward your best talent that you have produced in your first year, which is the start of your career. Do the same energy in your first year of the startup too. If you don't give that, you're going to be really bored. You're really going to be frustrated because there are a lot of surprises that is coming in front of a startup founder. It is just not one or two. There are a number of problems that we would face. We would have been so happy as an employee. The 8-hour job or a 12-hour job is so pleasant because the backbone is supported very well. Be it HR or a finance or a sales or a legal or taxes, nobody worries about what a business does, right? But when you start an organization, you need to worry about all that. I'm sure everyone is going to shape their idea very well. Everyone knows how they can take that core part of the business in a right way. But all they miss is that there are additional functions, the friendly functions that work with the core idea. Take for an example, the sales strategy. Most of the startup founders get frustrated with the sales journey because nobody wants to work with a brand that they don't know. No need to blame the business, right? Because businesses don't want to work with strangers. They don't want to risk their own money. They need to be successful in their first attempt. How they can rely on that, right? So you need to prove the point. You cannot straight away work with, say, Bank of America, but you need to start working with the credit unions first, or even below, work on a community bank for some reason. How you can develop a solution for a community bank and then slowly nurture that idea and then take it all the way to the nationalized bank, and then how you can make it global with the global banks, right? That is how the journey would start. So an idea is good, but you always put the other dimensions to it and be ready for those dimensions. We learned it the hard way and we had some mentors, but I would say that the mentors in your employee based career is different and your mentoring on a startup career is different, because your mentor probably is not going through the same journey that you have gone through or he wouldn't have experienced. Nobody can advise the right way to run your own company. It is like running your own family, right? Nobody wants to advise that this is how you need to run a family.
Exactly.
I would take it in the same way. You take an advice, take the generic best practice patterns. It is always good to go and do that. Always understand what are the risks that is coming in front of you. Those are some common risks, right? So always get those things. So be ready as a pattern, but be ready to play your own game. If you're not ready for that, then it's hard. That is what I say. Your first year of the career, you played all this game. You created your own career. You're able to run for 15, 20 years. So if you want to do that, then consider yourself as that 20-year-old energetic young man or woman. So only then you will succeed.
Okay, that's a great advice, Lakshman. Thank you for sharing. It's very well said. Earlier in your introduction, you mentioned about transformational journey that you support or help for your customers. Could you say more about it? What kind of transformation are your customers looking for, and how does your company come in to help with that transformation?
Yeah. So pretty much the businesses that we work with, right? We work with a lot of retail customers. And these retail customers has been in the business for a really, really long time. Their sales systems or their invoicing systems or their warehouse management or their supply chain would have been a legacy systems, right? For example, they would have been developed using the Estuary or Foxpro for some reason. Nobody even know what Foxpro is these days, right? So we work with the customers who has been working on the depreciated technologies. but it has been working for them. I would say the economy has been changing for them in a way that the retail companies, how they've been doing the business last 10 years ago, it was so organic. They've been gradually growing. Now take the last 10 years, any business for that matter, not just retail, take healthcare for that matter, take governments for that matter. The last 10 years has been so different. Everyone had to be so agile, be so transformative, be failure proof on the disruptive scenarios. COVID taught a lot of lessons for everyone. Before COVID, we were little agile. After COVID, we want to be super agile, but also want to be super safe. So you need to win the competition. Also, you want to win it safe. So all the systems that they have been handling, they are so old in a way that they are not scaling up for their needs. For example, the retail organization that we're working with, they had operations only in the central part of the region, and they expanded to the north, east, and the west side of the country. So they had more stores now. So their sales systems are not supporting. So they wanted to come out of that legacy application and they want us to modernize with the modern Java stack with all the Angular and every single stuff, right? And put it on the cloud, be containerized so that they can move from Amazons to Azures to Google. So this is where their motivation would come in, wherein I want to sustain the journey and at the same time I want to be really friendly with the customers. I don't want to be so disruptive. So this is where our transformational knowledge would come. We take them for a good ride wherein we don't ask for, say, 3 years to transform them. We ask them, okay, give us 3 months and we will turn your low-hanging fruit in a better transformed way and see the results, get the test of it, see whether your culture is matching with the transformation that we have done, right? Because at the end, the systems are used by the users. They are used. We are seeing a lot of retail organizations or many organizations in US. They still use the green text screens. They are on the mainframes, and we can still see that. And the users that have been using that has been in the organization for say 15, 20, 30 years. You cannot put them on a modern app-based screens. It may look so fancy for us. It may look so friendly for us because we come from a generation of using the systems and being the front end of the systems or being the developer of the systems. But the users are not that. Users are just supporting the functions of the company. So we need to keep that in mind also. The user experience plays a major role. We have a lot of UX talent to handle that. We have the user interface experts to handle that. So it is just not re-platforming. It is just not putting a mainframe into a Java. It is putting the legacy users and then transforming them to the modernized platforms. So the transformation journey is quite heavy. It also comes with a lot of challenges, such as the data that they've been handling could be a lot different on how they want to do it now. They may want to bring a lot of external data. Some users, some clients would come with crazy ideas that, okay, now I'm transforming. Let's do all the AI and ML now itself. But we put them on okay, so you cannot be on the steroids all the time. This is a transformation journey. It's not an autopilot. You need to transform gradually, but we will show the low-hanging fruits even from the intelligence standpoint. If we are converting and transforming their sales module, we'll go as a package wherein, okay, now you have been doing the sales module in this way, and then you've been making or looking at the trends in this way. Now let's plug in a simple A and ML ops onto your part and then see how the result is. You have to get used to this. Any transformation is a cultural change for any organization. So we work with the C-suite and we also work with the end users. It goes all the way from top to bottom. Only when we know, only when we appreciate that the change can affect the complete supply chain or the complete human chain of the organization, only then we can give a fulfilled solution. So our customers love that holistic approach. So they are always about, okay, let's start in a simple way and then gradually upgrade to a massive ones. Fortune 100 companies are really hard to deal with because they have a huge history. They run a lot of data centers still. They run a lot of mainframe systems still. It is very hard to modernize them. It comes with quite a bit of challenges. So the approach is completely different. We go for a framework based approach with them. We go for a lot of pilots. we take a region in a Fortune 100 and then say that, okay, let's not transform your whole business function of sales or something, right? Let's transform your this particular region sales alone. I want you to pilot that region first. Look whether it is working for you, right? So that's how things are working. Technically, it is all doable. Any company can do this. But how we come to the place that we play a mature role in understanding and then putting them in a good transition path, making a good runway for them to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, great. So it sounds like one size doesn't fit all.
Yes.
At the same time, the approach seems to be similar, whether it's Fortune 100 or a smaller company, in terms of what you're recommending is take a step-by-step approach. Don't try to do everything all at the same time. Instead, take baby steps or step one, step two, step three, however you call it. Take that approach, which seems to be better suited for most organizations. Sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. The quick wins is something the businesses would love to hear.
Mhm.
They want to see something changing in front of them in the next 3 months. But at the same time, they are not ready to see the massive change in front of them. They don't want a large win. No customer would need a large win. Nobody want to boil the ocean. Everyone need a quick win so that they can at least understand that, yes, this is working for me, or no, this is not working for me. The threat is coming in a way that the IT industry, the tech industry has been so evolving that the offering providers, they are changing themselves. Whomever has been an AWS professional for last say 15 years, they can appreciate how much AWS has changed. Put the same thing in a mainframe world for a 30-year mainframe professional back in the 50s to 80s, how much mainframe has changed? It
Not
didn't change
much.
a lot.
Yeah,
That's a big difference that we need to understand.
it's a
So
good perspective.
businesses and yeah, businesses and the tech providers, the service providers has to understand we are providing a solution that is going to change, and they are mature enough that they are not disruptive, but they can make a big deal. For example, AWS can introduce a feature, looks so cool, very good, it's all nice. We deploy to a customer, and at some point they increase the price by 3 times.
Yeah.
Then what do we do? So that's a factor that we need to worry about. Everything is working, but the cost is not matching with my customer's forecast. Their monthly bills are shooting up. So I need to be aware of that. So what kind of design patterns that I can put in a cloud world? So if something of that thing is happening, then what is my alternate for them? The design-based alternate for them from a service provider, so they don't feel disruptive, rather they feel transportable, so that I can, okay, now this is your alternate, and I'm not going to disrupt your system for that, but give me that say 3 weeks of time, so I'll put you in a different future offering, right? When the design is not in that way, then you are going to end up with the same bill because your system design is so rigid. So
Yeah,
there are numerous factors to all this.
that's very valid. So when you say digital transformation, the way I look at it is transformation could be a user facing, or transformation could be behind the scenes, meaning you're transforming your infrastructure, maybe a network, which are not visible to the end user. I can understand the user facing modernization. I can easily understand the justification for that. Do you have any example or why an organization should also focus on modernizing the back end of things?
The backend of the things is what driving the agility of the systems. So usually it is very hard to understand when a business is not so crowded, not so populated, not so growing. Your agility of the backend engine, it could be your processing engine, processing say the language, or the database at the back end, or the intelligence components at the back end. All these things doesn't matter when the organization is small and they are not scaling much, but when they are scaling high, that's when these non-visual components play a bigger part. So we wanted to work on the parallel engine based, parallel process based system processes rather than working on a singular processing modules. So we work with a lot of modern Java frameworks because the legacy Java is still not supporting the scalability issues that the customers are facing. So we always adopt to the modern Java framework or take the Python framework, for example. So we take the containerization for these processes, right? So we make sure that we research, we profile the customer on their business needs. When the customer is not scaling for the first year, my solution is going to work and then I'm going to be done with the contract and go.
Right.
But if I don't ask the questions about like, what is your 5-year plan, now I'm going to say, for example, I'm going to design a CRM system for them and they are just working in the North America region and they're going to do the business for the next 2 years. If I don't ask the question, are you going to go global and are you going to address the APAC region? Are you going to address the EMEA region? If you do, what you are going to do there? Are you going to do anything different? Or how does your consumer interaction would be with your systems? Or if it is your employees interacting, or how does your sales channel going to react in those regions, right?
Yep.
Then I don't want to design a CRM system for North America. I need to design a CRM system that supports globally. If I don't ask that question in the year zero, then I'm going to have them struggle in the year 2 or year 3. So this is when I'm going to put a very scalable system or the scalable system behind the infrastructure, right? Based on the clouds that we are putting, right? So be it AWS or Azure or GCPs. So you need to provide a mechanism so they can go on scale with less intrusions, less design considerations. So that's how the backend world would work. The users don't really see what is happening there. All they worry about is that they do not have a black code system when they work in their front office. That is how simple it is. And they don't want to wait to complete an operation for 2 minutes. They want to complete it in 10 seconds or 5 seconds. Be it any system. Nobody have patience to wait for anything to happen in this world.
Not anymore.
So that is where the user experience comes in a way that we can transform them visually so that they don't feel they are working in a different world. At the back end, we make it friendly and agile and performance intensive for now and also for the future.
Perfect, perfect. And I like your approach of understanding your customer's situation holistically and then going with the recommendation. So that way you're basically understanding what works best for them. Right. So that's the approach I suggest to leaders as well. Don't just try to resolve a ticket here and ticket there. Try to understand what the customer is doing by asking this request. What are they trying to accomplish? So we can probably recommend something else. Great. So you are a data guy ever since I knew, right? So when it comes to data governance, what are some of the mistakes that you see companies are doing? If you were to give a few recommendations to a company, what would that be? Not knowing much about the company.
Right. So there is one constant problem that the industry has been facing is the quality of the data. And if the industry has changed, it has changed a lot. But if something that doesn't change a lot is the quality. At least back then, there are only few systems interacting in the enterprise-wide scene. But now there are too many systems, and those systems keep changing. And we are also talking about the systems migrating from one platform to another. So I worked in a lot of analytical systems. I've built at least 50 odd uh, enterprise grade analytical systems for my customers so far. They're all smooth journey integrating a data from the ERP systems, CRM systems, mainframe systems. They're all pretty easy deal. But everybody misses a point that you bring a data and then you massage it, you transform it, and then you give it to an intelligence component. Even back then, business intelligence was a great thing, right? Because business executives really rely upon the business intelligence reports. They want to see the metrics, they want to see the KPIs, they want to make the decisions. So the data that the organization has been collecting is finally used as a result. or it is used as a decision. It is helping an executive to make a change in the organization. What if you infuse a less qualified data to it? You are influencing a bad decision for that. There is an executive trusting on the data that you have presented. It doesn't mean that we have processed 1 trillion records of data every single day and then we have given a good, nice silver version of a business intelligence report. But if that is wrong, there is no point processing 1 trillion data. A simple hole in one single column could disrupt the whole thing. We always work with the retail companies, so we understand the value of the sales, balancing to the penny, and then understanding how each transaction works between the departments. So when that goes wrong, we are letting executive to rely upon it. There is no trust that nobody can say that, right? So when people see a report and when someone says that the result that you see here is from coming from a backend of 100 GB of data, that creates a honest, and that also creates a bias because they think that this result is coming from a crux of 100 GB of data. But who validates the quality of it? And how you can validate the quality of it, right? An executive cannot have another team to validate the quality of it. So as an enterprise data architect, solution architect, I always enforce that when you design an analytical system, when you design an intelligent system that feeds into a decision management system, right? Or decision management executives, put your quality as the very first design pattern. When you think that data quality is the first design pattern, you will ask a lot of questions. You will ask questions about how qualified your feeding systems are. What is your assumption of the quality compromise that it has? We don't want to assume that it is a qualified data. And as the data professionals, we always have a suspicion on what data is coming in front of the analytics systems. If this is the case for business intelligence, then think about artificial intelligence. The risk is so high because artificial intelligence systems learn from the data. Business intelligence just reflect on the data, but artificial intelligence systems learn from that, right? What if there is a flaw in the sales data, the processed sales data, and it has a flaw for a very particular financial, sorry, very particular retail center, there is a flaw, and then we are reporting 20% less of sales every single time. Transactional systems are good, they reflect the right number, but there is a 20% reduction when we take it to the big data engineering repository. And then artificial intelligence is using that. Then the AI algorithm or a model will think that this particular retail center will always perform in this way, 20x lesser than the other one compared to this the trend, right? Then it is going to make a decision that, okay, so for this, you don't need to run a marketing campaign. You don't need to introduce this particular product segment in this retail center because it is not reacting. Probably the consumer base is not so reacting. You don't need to spend time on this, right? You
All
probably
incorrect decisions based on wrong data.
exactly, because AI models just rely on what is given to it, right? So quality affects your flat business intelligence. Quality affects your super smarty artificial intelligence too. So quality plays a very big role. And as a data governance expert, I always complain on the data that is being pooled for anyone to consume. I don't even look at the data, but I always say that go with that perception of that you are handling a bad quality data. Only then you will ask the right questions.
I see.
If you
That's a
assume
great
you are
viewpoint.
handling good data, yeah, if you assume you are handling a good data, you end up assuming a lot of good things, and then you let the data to come in. The way I tell my team that if you are handling one table at a time, if it has got say 10 columns and then 10 rows, you have 100 different problems sitting there.
Yeah.
That is how many problems that we are going to deal with. So what are the design framework that you need to do? So it is all about how we can monitor the quality issues, how we can eliminate that from spreading out to the next few layers, how we can stop it, how we can report it, how we can report back and then have a systematic process to either correct it or bring the data stewards so that they will come and fix it, or going all the way to the business experts so they can fix the system if at all there's a big flaw going there. So data quality creates a big churn in an organization. It has to go from one point to another, and it is also cannot be a showstopper for any reason. So we always take that in mind. If there's a data quality issue, we don't stop the pipeline, we let that flow. But the design mechanism always says that, okay, you need to inform this to the next system, business intelligence system, so that the exception is rightly reported. If it is artificial intelligence system, we don't want that data to be learned. That is being put in an exception area, so that that is analyzed, that is fixed, and then it comes back to the loop. So to me, as a data governance expert, there are a lot of areas to address, but the data quality plays a critical thing.
Okay. So you back to your comment about AI and having a quality data. Is it fair to say that when it comes to AI governance, data governance plays a big role in making sure that AI governance is taken care of? Is that a valid statement from your viewpoint?
It's a valid statement, but AI brings many other problems because it is addressing a bigger landscape compared to the business intelligence space, right? How AI has evolved from back then, because AI was always there. It is just not a 2024 thing. It is a 1960s thing, right? It comes all the way from the statistics world. People were trying to predict what the next word is from 1960. So that is as simple as that. AI is all about predicting the next thing. And it came to the reality, it came to the consumers because it is more usable and there's more compute power that goes behind this. So it's very easy to get the good computing power. So the businesses are introducing a lot more things into their solutions or their thinking process in an AI way. For example, a HR head of a big company may want to introduce, okay, I've been having, say, 500 different people, 500 different recruiters to handle, say, hundreds of jobs I have in my organization. They might think that probably an AI could help, right? So this is where they are introducing a thinking system rather than a processing system. There's a big difference between a thinking system and a processing system. Processing system does what you say. It doesn't go beyond that. It has a very good direction set. It has a very good step set. But a thinking system can do what they have learned it to do, and a generative part of the thinking system can also generate out of it. It can generate the processing power or the processing knowledge out of it. That's where the AI governance plays a different role altogether from an ethics standpoint. I am always advising about doing a responsible AI. It comes in wide different shapes and colors. There are a lot of facts that we could see now, and it is very visible. I'm glad that it is visible. AI is a shiny gold metal now, and everybody wants to have it. And it comes for cheap. It is open source. It is very easy to adopt and go ahead and do it. There is a big politics behind that also. But someone has to really think about, are we working on a right responsible system? Probably not. And every single day you are seeing some or other news behind the lost governance in a AI model. So Google introduced Gemini a couple of weeks ago, and it is not too far. Now they are going for big challenge, and now they stopped doing that service, right? So because they have to address that racial concerns that AI model has learned for. That's where the governance comes in. A very interesting conversation that I listened to 2 months ago. It happened between Yuval Noah Harari. He's a guy who has written a book called *Sapiens*. He's a historian.
Yeah.
A very famous book. It's a most I would say it's a bestseller across many regions. Many would have done it. It was translated into so many languages in the recent days. He and one another AI product company owner, Reflection.ai is a company. They both were talking, and I was curious about why a historian is talking about AI and why a historian and a AI product company founder has to talk to each other. So Harari had a lot of points about why AI should be stopped now or why it should be repaired now so it doesn't take the pilot seat. That's a very important point. AI system can take a pilot seat because it can generate. None of our programs before have generated anything. Many of us have written Java programs, Python programs, the olden days mainframe programs. They generated the result, but they never generated a thinking out of it. So it never generated something that it was not instructed for doing it, right? So the thinking power is a little harder to handle from a historian standpoint. So that's where the philosophy of the whole human beings comes and hits the AI power. And there are a lot of factors behind why this should be governed very well compared to the rest of the systems. Take the case of data governance, where we are talking about a two-dimensional data. But artificial intelligence is just not a two-dimensional data. It can work on your visual data, it can work on your voice data, it can work on any multimedia, right? How many of us are seeing that there are a lot of deep fakes are getting generated, voice-based deep
Yeah,
fakes and then visual-based deep
almost on a daily basis. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a big threat, right? Okay, forget that that's in the consumer space. Then think that in a business space. What if I'm injecting a AI model in a call center business of mine, right? Then I'm going to give a system which is doing a custom IVR process. We worked with a customer during COVID. We built a custom IVR process which interacted with a language learning model. So there is an intent-based learning model. So it will ask the questions one by one. Are you sick? If you're sick, what's your temperature? Are you coughing? If you're coughing, what kind of symptoms you have? And then it will determine whether you have to come to hospital or you need to go on a medication and go and do that. At that time, the nurses and the front office were so bogged down. There were a lot of cases coming in. So they wanted to introduce a AI model there. So it was a custom-based one. It's a IVR-based, wherein no, it was based on a voice-based response. So the system would ask a question as a human voice, and then it will respond back. So it's a very good, simple design. But what if there's a bad actor going in there and then very good LLM model is trying to ask their social security number? I haven't designed that, but there could be an intrusion coming in because it's open source, right? So what if there is a call center where the different actors' voice is asking, okay, this is a marketing call, but I still want your, say, Aadhaar number for some reason. So anything could happen, right? That's the intrusion that anybody want to avoid. These are the areas where the AI governance has been taking a lot of attention on avoiding the bad actors in the space in terms of business AI, in terms of the consumer AI. We have been so particular about that with our customers. We have been working with one of the ATS-based AI system. ATS is a applicant tracking system. It usually scans the profiles of the candidates. It used to be a human thing, and then the ATS systems was used to handle it. Now there are AI bots that can handle it. If an organization is getting like 10,000 different resumes every single hour, then the AI system can make and decide, right? It doesn't just match for if someone is asking a Java developer, it doesn't just check Java 10 years and then worked in this region and immigrant friendly and everything, but it goes above and beyond. Based on the job description, it will see whether we are asking a Java developer who worked on a retail background and then worked on this particular credit card processing lineup. Then this particular AI system can understand that because this is a language model. It can understand any language. It is just not as text-based. It's not a simple match, right? So these systems, we were really particular that we don't want to introduce the racial-based governance patterns, or we don't want to introduce the racial-based AI patterns into that. That has to stay away from that. What if you introduce the racial patterns into the ATS-based AI, then we let that decide based on a pattern. What if a company is always hiring the 30-year-old and it was not an intention that they've been probably they are very young company, and when they grow the AI shouldn't think that this organization really works better for the 30 to 35 year range, right? What happens to the 40-year-old, 45-year-old? We don't want the AI system to decide on that. So these are the governance factors that anybody wants to put in. This is the ethics-based governance that is coming up, which is completely different from what we have handled in the data governance world.
Exactly.
This is a kind of psychology that goes behind the AI, because AI can produce the psychology from there. It can have its own psychology to apply and then produce a result which everyone will believe.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to avoid.
Yeah, like you said earlier, programs have created results, but now we are creating creators. They can create more creations and more creations from there on, there on, there on. So we are creating infinite loops, which we have to be really careful about the origin of that creation that we are making. So that's a big scary element here that we're seeing. Well, in the last few minutes here, Lakshman, I'm curious on your advice for growing leaders, because a lot of my audience are growing leaders. Many of them are IT leaders. So what advice do you have for a growing leader?
Have an appetite for handling a lot of risk. There are a lot of advices that anyone can give, but I would say that have an appetite to handle the risk. This world, the current economy that we are facing right now, which is so fluctuating, and any entrepreneur, a budding entrepreneur or a scaled up organization's entrepreneur, has to understand the upfront risk that is coming in front of them, or an unforecasted risk in front of them. It could be anything. It could be different for a payment gateway. It could be different for a food industry. It could be completely different for how an energy sector would work. Everyone has their own way of handling things, and everything has their own problem framework. But an entrepreneur can get very easily dejected if they face the risk in a day-by-day mode. We can do the work, but nobody has an appetite to handle the risk if it is coming every single day, right? You should have a better mitigation plan. You should forecast what is really coming in front of you. That's why I was initially saying that you should bring back your energy of your first year. Only then you will have that appetite of, okay, I see this risk and I don't want to be hot-headed here. I want to be cold-headed, and then let me sit and see how I can resolve this. And there are ways how we can resolve it in the current patterns. The world is wide open now. The solutions are everywhere, be it a technical problem and a solution, or a human problem and a solution. It's pretty close, right? So we can definitely get there. But the stress level that the entrepreneurs are going through, in my perspective, that's really high. And it shouldn't affect your health finally, that, okay, I'm facing risk all the day. I may be making money, but there is a lot of risk around, and there's a lot of problems around. Do I want to run in this way? You need to define that, okay, how long is your runway for this particular idea of yours? If you have set up this corporation for so many years, and what is your exit strategy? And if your exit strategy is this particular year, and for this particular uh, metric, say for $1 or something, right? So then you need to understand that to handle it, you will face these problems, or you work with the right set of people so that they will handle the problems for you. So entrepreneurs come in different ways. As I said, some entrepreneurs want to handle everything by themselves. They never have a second line of defense. Some entrepreneurs are really clever. They have a second line of defense. They always choose their battle, because the battle is going to be 24/7. It's going to keep happening, right? So you need to choose, you need to pick the right battle that you want to get in, and you want to assign a battle that your next level of leaders has to handle. So that's a big skill, and we acquired it in a hard way, because we were a 10-member team back then in 2018. Now we are 300 plus. So when we were a 10-member team, every single problem has to be handled by us, two of us co-founders. But now we pick our problems. We assign the problems for someone to handle, but it doesn't mean that we are losing the thread, but we always make sure that we pick the right person to handle that battle. So if I have a ServiceNow customer issue going on, then I have my ServiceNow tower head who's going to take care of that problem and then come back. And if I have a legal issue that I'm handling, then I have a legal expert that is working alongside, right? So it is just not an idea, because all of us are really smart in nurturing the idea, but some of us are not really smart enough to handle the rest of the pieces. So that's why I would say the ancillary pieces and the risks that you face are going to be alien to you, and don't stay away from it, rather face it, and then you will grow, and you will outgrow on all that, and then you set up your team, you teach the same thing to them, and then march forward for that end line with having that risk appetite. So you can handle it. None of the problems are harder these days. It's so easy, but it is just that the frequency is going to be higher.
Very well said, Lakshman. You can't handle everything yourself as a leader. So you have to basically look for ways to delegate smart. Whether you're a small company leader, the more you can accomplish is by delegating to the right people, like you said. Perfect. And what business book would you recommend for my audience?
Wonderful. Good question. So I read a lot of books, but very little bit of the business books. Rather, I read a lot of literature. So there's two sides of me. Given you asked me about the business book, one that comes to my mind is the 0 to 1, written by Peter Thiel. Um, I really like the concept of the book because it is just not talking about the usual patterns on what someone has to do from an entrepreneurial journey. Rather, he's all about uh, you running a journey on your unique selling point. So that is something that it has helped us in a long run, because the services industry is widespread. Like my company, there are like hundreds of companies in my own zip code itself. So how I'm going to be unique, right? And how I'm going to be sustaining that journey of uniqueness. So his concept is all about 0 to 1. That journey is going to be really important. 0 is not void, rather you are like someone else, and 1 is like that you are that one, right? How you become that one is where you need to be really focused on. That could compromise your journey. You may take say 5 years to win in that journey, but at least you stay unique at the 5th year. Rather, if you compromise yourself and then in the first year you go to whatever the others have done it, then you're not going to appreciate your journey at all. So he's all about how you become that 0 to 1 pattern entrepreneur, and then keep the rest aside. It could be the money, it could be the time, it could be your fame, it could be your anything for that matter, right? It is all about you play safe and then you also stay unique. That will put you in a right spot in terms of whatever you expect or more than what you expect. So that's a different approach that I've seen, and it's not an advice rather, but I say that he has done it, and that's why he has written this book. He is the face behind some of the big brands in the world. So I really
Including
like.
PayPal, right? Including
Yeah,
PayPal.
yeah.
Yeah, I
He's
enjoyed the book too, and I think he's the one that says the next Mark Zuckerberg is not going to create a Facebook. The next Bill Gates is not going to create Microsoft. That's a valid viewpoint to your point about unique selling
exactly.
point for every company, right? So that's
Mhm.
very true. Awesome. Then the last question I have for you, Lakshman, is where can my audience find more about you?
Sure. So we are highly active in LinkedIn, so they can search us in LinkedIn and of course other media platforms, but we interact really high in LinkedIn, including my individual post would come in LinkedIn, and then the second source would be our website, so QBrainX.com. So they can see more of our updates in our website. So these are the two places where they could see. We also participate in the conferences, the major conferences, so they can find us there. And we also participate in the webinars. So we do our own webinars, the public webinars. So anyone can come join and listen to us. We will do one in in the month of March, predominantly towards the cost optimization on any cloud world. So that's another avenue on how anyone can learn about QBrainX.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to include links to your website and your
Sure.
LinkedIn profile as well in the show notes.
Sure.
Been a great discussion with you, Lakshman. I learned quite a few things, and it's interesting to hear how you approach things from the leadership standpoint as well as from your company standpoint. It's all great information. So thank you for your time today.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Riaz.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lakshman. Have a great rest.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.